All right, what's up, guys? Well, man, it has been a minute. I think this is the longest amount of time I've gone between videos. But yeah, I filmed this one a little while back. I was kind of debating on what to do with this. So what we're doing today is a narrated wash and talk, just because when I went to go start filming this, I got everything all set up, and of course I had no less than 2 neighbors come out with the lawn equipment, and man, that just would have ruined the audio. I think it would have ruined the experience, but I didn't want to let this video go. This is the first wash of the Supra, and so I wanted this in the archives, part of the channel, part of the video. So I figured, I've been sitting on this one for a little while, but I figure, you know what, why not narrate it? And I don't normally like the idea of narrating something like a wash and talk because I feel like that's a little bit more, it's a little informal. But again, I didn't want to let this one go. In fact, the other day I saw a Peter McKinnon video pop up, and he was talking about the whole process of making videos, and specifically the trap of not making videos, and how not making a video can make it more easy, I think that's the right way to say it, more easy to continue not making videos. And man, that was spot on. So yeah, it's just the time between ideation and execution get too long, and it's just that video might never get made. And that was kind of where this one was. I kind of felt like if I didn't just narrate this and get it out because I was going to scrap it entirely, then it was never going to happen. So anyway, all that to say, got a little wash and talk for you today, narrated first wash of the Supra. It's really not all that dirty. So today I'm just going to do I'm going to use some CarPro Lift as a pre-foam wash, just because I know that there's some road grime and everything that you can't really see too well, but it's there. And after that, I'll use the trusty old Kokemi GSF for the contact wash. But first, got to get set up with wheels here. So I'm just going to hit this. The wheels, by the way, on this thing. Okay, let's talk about the car for a second, because I did mention in the initial Supra video about how good a condition, I think I mentioned how good a condition the paint was in and everything like that. But looking on the Carfax here, when the second owner got it in 2019, less than a year later, there was a entry in the Carfax saying the car was reconditioned. Now that can have a bunch of different meanings. It's usually something that happens when you're getting ready to put a car up for sale. So it's like a complete inside and out, any kind of mechanical or cosmetic, things like that. But it can have a much wider, meaning. And so I have a hard time believing that the paint on this car is original. It's too good for being 29 years old, for actually just over 100,000 miles. The paint on this car is just, it's like showroom quality. So either it has been unbelievably well taken care for, or it was repainted. Same thing with the wheels. I would have a hard time believing that these 29-year-old factory wheels have never been repainted or addressed or anything like that. No curb rash. The barrels are perfect. So the wash process for the wheels, so I'm just using a little bit of P&S Brake Buster, which is what I always use. I feel like my tool process for the F80, because those competition wheels are they're a monster to clean. And so I think I have maybe 6 or 7 tools for cleaning the wheels, which that seems a little bit overboard, but for these, and especially because of the design of the wheel, I feel like we can dial it back a little bit. So I got the Easy Detail brush for the inner barrel and the wheel well, which is kind of weird on these cars, especially in the back, because like with the F80s, there's a very defined wheel well at all 4 corners, but especially on the back of these cars, it's just opens up. And so on the driver's side, man, you go wheel well right to muffler. So it's a little strange to try to get the wheel well in here, but in any case, the Easy Detail brush does a great job of, trying to get everything. After that, I have the Detail Factory synthetic brush, the long handle brush, in order to get the calipers, which is kind of tricky because of how fat these wheels are, or the face of the wheels. But that, trying to get whatever I can in there. And then the lambskin wheel mitt pretty much just takes care of everything else. Again, these things are almost like hubcaps, so a lot of surface area, very easy to get these with the lambskin wheel mitt. And then finally the Tough Shine tire brush to get the wheels, the tires, actually. While we're doing the pre-foam here with the CarPro Lift, let's talk about that for a second. So I haven't tried a whole lot of high pH decontamination soaps. I've tried a couple, but the one thing I would say that I like about the CarPro Lift is I like that it's really easy to rinse off. You know, sometimes I find that with like a high pH soap, it's really difficult just because they tend to be, and it also depends on, like, on your dilution ratio, but you know, some of them can be like almost like sap, you know, trying to get off the paint. So what I like about the CarPro Lift is that, you know, you get it on there, leave it on for about 5 minutes, let it really encapsulate any of the dirt and try to run as much off as it can before I do the rinse. It's weird though, like you rinse it off and then you could still see there's like this little, the tiniest film left behind on the paint, but then you just kind of like, you know, hit it again. You just run your pressure washer stream back over it again, and it's all gone. So actually, I do like the fact that this stuff does wash off, I'd say, fairly easily. And it does seem to do a pretty good job, especially you have like any kind of bug guts or any you know, tar from tires or anything, not tar, but rubber, well, rubber tar, whatever, towards the bottom of the car. It does a really good job of breaking that up so that even if you don't get it all the way off, you don't really have any issues with contact washing that stuff off. Although I do try to, if there is any left behind, I do try to hit it with a little bit of Tar-X. So I'm just not rubbing it into the paint, anything left behind. But yeah, this stuff does a great job. So I've had the car for a little over a month now, and yeah, I mean, I've definitely found a couple of things. It's not perfect. There's a couple of things to be worked out. Maintenance-wise, so far, I've just done a transmission fluid flush, power steering fluid flush, and the rear differential flush. And man, looking at the fluids that were in there, it very much needed it. I don't know how long this thing is, but I know it was sitting at the dealer for like almost a year. I really don't know. I wish I had some more of the service history of this car, but I don't. We were able to actually get a couple of things from one of the service places where the first owner had it in Texas. He originally bought the car in Nevada, at some point moved to Texas, had, you know, pretty regular service done to the car then. And I mean, he had it for the most amount of time, from the time he bought it till he sold it in 2019. Had about 97,000 miles on it when the second owner got it. He got it, moved to Florida, or not moved, but he bought it, lived in Florida. He only had it for like 3-4 years, drove it for about 1,000 miles. So not really sure whether or not this was to be like a project car that just didn't work out, just something to, you know, experience for a few years and, you know, maybe take it to shows and just keep it in the garage every once in a while. I don't know. I have no idea what the history was, but he's the one that did the reconditioning. But as I've gone along, I've noticed a couple of things missing, few fasteners, few bolts, things that are a little bit different. The tray underneath, the engine tray, has got a little tear in it, and there's, you know, some issues there. It looks like some of the bolts aren't, you know, from the factory. There's a couple of things are mismatched. So, you know, again, almost 30 years old, in and out of how many shops, who knows. There's going to be some weirdness, but, you know, part of the process, part of the, I don't know if I'd say I was looking forward to it, but I'm kind of interested in it, is just, you know, finding all these things and then buying the parts or buying the, you know, pieces, as simple as they are. I mean, you're talking about like 80 cents for a, you know, a bolt cap or, you know, a couple of bucks for a few of the original, you know, fasteners or something like that to get everything back to factory. But just little odds and ends, you know? And so that's kind of the process that I've started going down, finding all of the, you know, the part list, the part sheets and everything, just figuring out, you know, what you need. And fortunately, most of this stuff is still being made, or at least still available. I read that a couple of years ago, Toyota started making Mark III and IV parts again. I don't know how long ago. I mean, I think that was, you know, maybe 5 years ago or something like that. But there are plenty of online Toyota, you know, dealerships or distribution centers that have like just every little part for these cars. So that's kind of lucky. Mechanically wise, in pretty decent shape, pretty good shape, but I have noticed some issues with power steering. Man, there is this, like if you are at full lock, it just makes this, not all the time, only when it's cold, but it makes a horrific screeching sound. So I feel like either the belt might need to be replaced, or maybe the vane pump is starting to go. Hopefully it is just the belt. That's relatively easy to do. The vane pump is a couple $100. That'd be a pain in the ass, but you know, it is what it is. And there is one other strange sound that I'm still trying to troubleshoot. It almost sounds like a tuning fork being plucked or hit, or a deep bass string being plucked sometimes. And it could happen when you're just stopped movement, or if you've reversed and stopped and you're just, you know, idling for a little bit. It just makes this sort of like a deep plucked string. I have no idea. I've never heard anything like it before. It could just be another belt issue. It could be a loose belt. Still need to investigate that. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, it drives fantastic. It's awesome. But it is, and you know what? I should save a lot of this for the review video that I plan to make for this car. Okay, let's talk about one more thing with the car. To mod or not to mod. So I got to tell you guys, when I've spent years and years and years dreaming about owning this car, and I always thought the minute that I got it, if I could afford to, which I can't right now, but I figured the minute that I got it, it would just be off to the races with modifications. And having gotten one that is completely stock, except for the radiator, yeah, I'm kind of rethinking that a little bit. I've sort of have kind of come to appreciate the just the untouched nature of this car. It's almost like appreciating a giant field of snow that no one has walked on yet before you go run out and, you know, snowboarding or making a snowman or whatever. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I just, there are definitely some things that I think need to be done to it. I guess the thing is that I'm not too concerned about, you know, affecting its value, because unless I absolutely had to, I would never want to get rid of this thing anyway. Right. So I don't think about it in terms of like, oh, you could damage the value by doing something to the car. That's not really at the forefront, but it's more just about just maintaining, I guess, the purity of the stock nature of this car. But then as soon as I think that, I'm like, well, you know, the factory wheels are adorable, but like, let's face it, we need to upgrade the wheels. Or, you know, the exhaust, the stock exhaust has a nice little bit of bassiness to it, but there's a really nice HKS exhaust that makes it sound so much better. But then I guess I'm kind of thinking that the things that I would do to it are more or less bolt-ons and not anything that wouldn't be reversible, right? So I don't really have plans for a body kit. And any other stuff that I would do, like maybe, you know, intake or exhaust or wheels, you know, maybe a little bit of suspension, kind of, you know, get it sitting a little bit better. Although it, you know, it's low as it is, but it's not so much that it's low to the ground. The physical car is low, that's another thing that's really weird. If I don't mean to make a comparison between, you know, this and the F80, but just because these are the cars that the F80 is what I'm used to, man, coming up to this thing, like it is just a lower car, like height wise lower, not lower to the ground. So it's just a really weird difference trying to getting in and out of this car, man. I feel like, you know, you go to those car shows and you see like, you know, 75-year-old guy getting out of a McLaren. It takes him like 10 minutes to get out of the car. It feels a little bit like that with this thing, just because of how low it is. But anyway, suspension, just, you know, maybe get that wheel gap just right, or eliminated, as it were. So yeah, anything that I would potentially do to this car would be reversible. So I wouldn't really have to worry too much about like any, you know, permanent damage, as it were. I'm not gonna fuse a roll bar into it. Although I did originally consider that back in the day, but never mind. So yeah, I think on the whole subject of to mod or not to mod, minimal, you know, like just get it just a little bit up to speed with my, you know, tastes, or, you know, make it sound a little bit better, but not go too crazy. I was kind of looking forward to like just really spending a couple of hours, like, you know, doing the whole decontamination process and polishing it and everything like that, but I just doesn't need it right now. So I guess that'll come in due time. I, on the other hand, plan to put miles on this thing. I'm gonna have a hard time just leaving this in the garage. Although for right now, the car is insured by Hagerty. It does have a limitation on it. Not that you have to, you know, I mean, that's flexible, I guess, but you know, it's, it does have a certain limit to how much I'm probably gonna drive it. Plus, you know, in the wintertime, especially up here, I definitely, you know, knowing that it was in Nevada and then Texas and then Florida, I know it's been probably mostly kept off of salty roads. And if you look underneath of it, you really don't see any kind of rust or anything to indicate that it might have been in an area like the Northeast, like we typically get. So I figure, yeah, I kind of don't really want to jeopardize that after all this time. So it probably will. I see people on Instagram all the time where, you know, winter comes along and they have their fun car, and then it's just like, all right, you know, bye, see you next summer or see you in the spring or something like that. And then it gets, you know, it gets a cover on it and hooked up to a battery tender. And I'm like, man, that is depressing. That's depressing. But you know what? Now I kind of get it. So anyway, as I was saying, it will likely just sit in the garage for now and just continue to do maintenance and find things that maybe need to be addressed and do some more troubleshooting, find out what those weird noises are. And I do have a couple of that. I did notice that the rear bumper looks kind of weird if you look at it. And then I realized that underneath of it, there's like a bar, like a plastic bar that goes across that the fasteners go into. Well, this is another reason why I think that, you know, the car might have been, you know, partially disassembled or repainted or whatever, because whatever that bar is, it's missing. So the fasteners that are holding it in, they're in place, but they're almost kind of loose. And if you look at the car at the right angle from behind, you can see that on the one side, it looks uneven, but only because it seems to not have the tension necessary for the rear bumper. So again, I'm thinking that this thing was taken apart, repainted, or, you know, whatever. And just whoever did it didn't put it all the way back together with all the original stuff. So, and if that's the case, and if the worst case scenario is I'm missing a couple of fasteners or, you know, some factory bolts and stuff like that, don't have too much of a problem with that. Easy enough to fix, but I feel like for a little while, for the foreseeable future, it's gonna be a little bit of you know, detective work to figure out what else is missing, what might have been, you know, not put back in place or replaced with something that wasn't OEM, you know, so on and so forth. So that'll be kind of fun. That'd be something to do during the winter. Sure, we'll go with that. All right, man, first wash is complete, right? So still a lot more to do. It's probably gonna take me a little while to dial in the wash process, but yeah, the interior still needs a complete detail. All this plastic at the base of the windshield is looking kind of gnarly, so this could probably use some, like, I don't know, CarPro Pearl, maybe some Top Star. Got to do all the trim. Still got to deal with the engine bay and all that stuff, but at least the outside is clean. But anyway, like I said, still a lot more to do, so consider subscribing, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.